Okay, we're gonna start with these main articles. Okay, wa and ga. Let's start with this. I'm gonna put these together because these two have really similar functions. Okay, and that's why people get really confused, use it incorrectly, and stuff. Okay, so there is a function that both particles have. Mark subject of the sentence. Mark the subject of the sentence. Okay. Subject meaning whoever does the action that the sentence says. I play baseball. Subject of that sentence is I. Takeshi and Yugo play soccer. Takeshi and Yugo, both are subjects, right? So in terms of marking subject of the sentence, yes, wa and ga both have this function. But there's a second point on this. Still within the same function that these particles mark the subject of a sentence, but there's slight difference, and that's emphasis. While at the same time, wa tells whatever noun that it's connected to that is the subject, it also emphasizes one way or another, the two options. That's my cat. That's me-chan. Subject or topic. Okay, let me talk about this. Okay, because this one too, I think it's important for you to know linguistically. I think it's always important to learn languages as a linguist and then speak. For English speakers, many mistakes people make is they try to do literal translation between English and Japanese. Oops, English and Japanese. This mistake many students do. What the mistake is English and Japanese. Languages are not only about languages, it's about the whole culture of the country or the people who speak the language, right? You have to know history of the place where people speak. So it's really a huge thing. It's like I consider one language as one living being. It's just it changes, it's living, it's really deep. So you can't just directly translate because the culture of English speaking countries and culture of Japanese speaking country is totally different. So many times it could come off in the wrong way. So that's why my recommendation is for you guys, English speakers, change to your linguist brain. First, be able to analyze your own language linguistically. If you can analyze your own language, then you can use that to other languages using their culture and rules. That way, you can avoid making mistakes, thinking your culture is same as the culture and the language you're trying to speak. That is really important uh, for any language learner. Okay, linguistically, any kind of sentence can be just this is just one way of one opinion. Any sentence in any language can be simplified into two, and that's subject and topic. Oops, topic. Okay, subject. Again, earlier I said whoever does something, and topic is whatever the subject does. Okay, so like I play baseball, then I is the subject, topic is play baseball, right? Weather is nice today. Weather is the subject. Nice today is the topic, talking about the weather, right? So with that, any sentence can be usually simplified into these two, subject and topic, just like how I did in English. In Japanese, it's the same way. We can simplify it in these two ways. Japanese, we put a particle here, attaching to the subject to say, hey, this is the subject. And this is where this one comes from. We can either put wa or ga here. Why? Because the first function of these two particles is mark the subject of a sentence. So by putting wa or ga here to this noun, we are telling other people that, hey, this is the subject. But then here we're going to move on. Emphasis. Okay. If we put wa, then the emphasis will be on the topic side. If we use ga, then we put in the emphasis on the subject side. Okay, so with this, I'm gonna say this one sentence in two different situations. Situation A, you just met your friend on Monday, and your friend is like, "Hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do?" Right? And then you're like, "Oh, I killed Takeshi," and your friend will be like, "Oh shit, okay." And hopefully call the police, right? Okay, so that's situation A. Situation B, totally different situation. You see a police officer looking for the culprit, the murderer. They don't know who killed Takeshi. That's why the police is asking people around, hey, do you know Takeshi or anyone who might have killed Takeshi, right? Seeing that, you start to feel guilty and decide to confess. And that's when you're like, hey, I killed Takeshi. That's situation B. Okay, these two situations, I said the same thing. I killed Takeshi. Did you see any difference? I'm pretty sure you did see the difference. Emphasis meaning whichever side that has new information, usually, you would naturally want to emphasize, right? If you already know your friend knows that Takeshi is killed, you don't need to be like, hey, did you know? So, whichever side that has new information is naturally important, and that's where naturally we want to emphasize, right? These two situations, A and B. Let's go back to A. Your friend is like, hey, what'd you do this past weekend? Yeah, I killed Takeshi. In this case, which side is more important, subject or topic? In this case, subject meaning I is the subject. Kill Takeshi is the topic, right? Which side is more important in this situation A? Pretty sure you'll say B, kill Takeshi, right? Because like your friend asked you, hey, what'd you do? Maybe the person asked because your friend didn't know what you did. And also the I in this sentence is not really important. It's obvious when I say I in front of someone, it's pretty obvious I means me. It's an obvious fact. So we don't need to emphasize here. So in this casual situation where we're catching up with each other, this is new information, meaning we want to emphasize this, meaning it's better to put wa here to attach to I. Then what it does is, while at the same time wa tells people that, hey, the noun that I'm connected to is the subject of the sentence, but also, even though I'm attached to the subject is not that important. The topic is more important. That's what wa will do when you put a wa after a noun. Okay. On the other hand, situation B. Police already knows Takeshi is killed. What they don't know is who. That's why they're asking. And then finally, you confess by saying, hey, I killed Takeshi. I mean, I already kind of said in a different tone, right? In English, we can change tone to have an emphasis on a specific side or word. I'm sorry, I'm really messy. Bear with me. Okay, so in the case of situation B and the sentence I killed Takeshi, right? This information is not important. Like I said, police already knows that Takeshi is killed. What they don't know is here. So for you in that situation to say I killed Takeshi, this I is the new info to the other person. So naturally you want to emphasize this part by putting ga. That's what it means here. Ga also marks the subject, but then also saying, hey, that this subject is the most important for the sentence. Okay. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's difficult for English speakers to understand the importance of particles, but especially the difference between wa and ga. Why? Because, well, first of all, in this case, between subject and topic, English doesn't need to put anything. That's one point. So there's just the existence of particles is a little bit hard to understand. But second point, like we talked about with this sentence, situation A, most likely people will, if they have to say this sentence, they will just say casually, like, I killed Takeshi. But then in situation B, with this situation, people will most likely say something like, I killed Takeshi, emphasizing on the I. English, we put emphasis by changing the tone, right? I killed Takeshi, which doesn't show when you write it. Of course, you can capitalize everything to show the emphasis, but in this case, we cannot specify that difference, the nuance, the difference between wa and ga in English in written form. This is another reason why it's difficult for English speakers to understand the difference between wa and ga. Okay, there is another function, okay, that only wa has and ga doesn't have. This is another important thing. And this function is introducing a topic. One good way to translate is as for blank. For example, I mean, as for sounds formal, and we don't use it too much in casual speech and in casual setting in English. But let me show some examples. As for lunch, I like to eat ramen. In this sentence, who's the subject? What's the subject of the sentence? I, but then what's this? As for lunch. This one, introducing a topic. We're given the topic. When it comes to lunch, I'd like to eat ramen. As far as lunch goes, I'd like to eat ramen. Okay? So in that case, lunch is not the subject of the sentence, it's just introducing a topic. Okay? How do we do that in Japanese? By putting wa. And we can make lunch as the topic. As for lunch, I'll eat ramen. As for dinner, I'll eat cereal or whatever, right? So that's what this second function does that only wa has, ga doesn't have. In other words, ga only, his job is only to mark the subject. Ga just finds the subject of the sentence and attaches, and that's the only job. Wa has two jobs. How do we figure out which function each wa is using context. Okay. So for example, I am assuming those people who watch this video already knows hiragana, but I'm gonna try to write in Romaji as well. Okay. This one is a tricky one, right? When we first simply try to translate, 日曜日は, okay, subject of the sentence, 日曜日 is the subject, ラーメンを食べます. Or is the object marker, which we'll learn later. 食べます, eat, right? Okay. So, if you only know the first function, that wa marks the subject of the sentence, then you will translate this sentence as this person called Sunday, 日曜日 means Sunday, eats ramen. This person called Sunday eats ramen, which, I mean, there could be someone whose name is Sunday, but usually, with this situation, you might be like, okay, this sounds weird. It might have translated wrong. That's when you move on to the second function to see if the second function makes more sense, this one. Okay? Usually, this meaning, this function is mostly used. Sometimes the second one is used, just sometimes. So it's always okay to default to the first function, and then whenever it doesn't make sense, try the second function. So with this, let's try the second function. As for Sunday, blank eats ramen. Who's the subject? If we make Sunday as the topic, right, then we don't have any subject. In Japanese, we omit subjects many times when it's obvious. Just like how I explained earlier, I killed Takeshi in situation A. Hey, what'd you do this past weekend? Oh, I killed Takeshi. Of course, like English, many times we still need to put subject even when it's obvious, but Japanese, when it's obvious, we can omit I. Just say kill Takeshi. You do that. I mean, English too, you can technically do, but it's re usually in a colloquial way, casual, not officially. But in Japanese, we can omit subjects and use them in formal documents and stuff. Of course, it depends on context, but we can put I, that's as hidden subject, and translate the sentence as for Sunday, I will eat ramen. That makes more sense than this person called Sunday, or literal meaning will be Sunday eats ramen, right? So context is the important factor when it comes to figuring out which function to use. Okay, if you have any question, let me know in the comments.